Hello, cinephiles, and welcome to the Guy at the Movies Live and the very first episode of the Guy at the Movies podcast, your weekly source for the biggest movie news, along with discussion and special guests popping in here and there. This is episode 1. It's minus Jar Jar Binks, but with all the CGI and crazy hijinks you've come to expect. We'll get kicking right in a few seconds, but tonight I'll be joined by the one, the only Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Talks About. We'll be discussing the reopening of movie theaters throughout the world, whether people will flock back, and yes, whether Tenet will find itself being moved out of the summer. Before we get to Sean, however, we'll dive into some of my favorite news stories from the past week. Now is a bit of housekeeping. If you're watching live here on YouTube as part of Guy at the Movies Live, I will be interacting with any comments throughout the show. If you're listening to the Guy at the Movies podcast, head over to the link on Anchor or hit the link in the episode description to leave a voice message. In future episodes, I'll be playing and responding to some of them at the end of the show. Finally, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Please keep it classy. This is a family show. Yesterday, the news broke that Michael Keaton is in talks to reprise his role as Batman, and that is where we are about to start. So I am very into this news, but for those of you that don't know what we're talking about here, Michael Keaton played Batman in Batman and Batman Returns, and he's rumored to return in 2022's Flash movie, long rumored to involve the Flashpoint storyline. So for those who may not be familiar with that storyline, the Flash ends up in an alternate universe in the story where he finds an older, weathered Batman who's not Bruce Wayne, but his father, Thomas Wayne. Obviously, Keaton wouldn't be playing the father, but he almost certainly will be representing the Tim Burton Batman universe, ultimately establishing that there are multiple Batman universes there. So when we're talking about all the different Batmans that we've seen over the years, maybe they all are, realistic here. Maybe they're all living out there, and we might see them all play. We might get, Bat Nipples back, or Christian Bale. Who knows what's going to happen there? But that could explain why we currently have 3 Batmans in play. So if you include Ben Affleck in the upcoming Snyder Cut of Justice League and Robert Pattinson in next year's The Batman, we have a lot of Batmans going on here. Is this how the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, is going to explain all of the craziness? Have some crazy issues with, Suicide Squad not being what it was expected to be. We have another Suicide Squad coming, which is a sequel, but not a reboot, but kind of a reboot, but who knows what it's going to be. We have Joker out there on the side. There's a lot going on. So hopefully this is the way that DC is going to make sense of that. They've already kind of set it up a little bit. If you think back to the Crisis on Infinite Earths, back on the CW a couple of months ago at this point, where Ezra Miller's movie Flash met Grant Gustin's TV Flash. So that really does open a lot going on. So we also had the rumor, though, that Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan from The Walking Dead and Denny from Grey's Anatomy, for those of you old enough to know that, he played Thomas Wayne in Batman vs. Superman, and he may be in talks for the film as well. So if true, there's your daddy Batman from Flashpoint. I am super pumped for this. Everyone that is probably watching this knows that I'm a big fan of the DC movies. I love what's going on with them. And that is really something that I think a lot of people don't agree with, right? I've long defended Batman versus Superman. I love the idea that we're finally going to see the conclusion of that 3-movie arc when it comes to Justice League and Zack Snyder's vision next year. But let's see what happens, right? I think it's finally nice to see DC having a plan for once. That's something that I don't think we've seen in quite a long time. They've kind of been shooting from the hip and trying to catch Marvel where they can, but they're never going to catch Marvel. They need to do their own thing. So that's pretty exciting. But by the way, go check out the short teaser for Zack Snyder's Justice League that gives us a look at Darkseid for the first time. More's going to be revealed at DC's upcoming big 24-hour Comic-Con-esque event, DC Fandom, on August 22nd. Keep it here for some info on that as we move closer to it and more reveals pop up. So moving on, a few days ago, we got the first trailer for the film version of Hamilton hitting Disney Plus on July 3rd. The performance was recorded back in 2016 at the Richard Rodgers Theater with the original cast led by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So look, I'm incredibly pumped for this. Again, anyone that follows me on social media knows that I was kind of freaking out about it, and I may have watched that trailer too many times by this point. But I've seen the show twice. It's an incredible musical. It's vibrant. It's beautiful. It's historically important. And the trailer shows that this is going to take us up close and personal with the actors, which I think is a really neat touch here. Disney was incredibly smart to snatch this up. It was supposed to hit theaters next year before the pandemic hit us. The audience is potentially going to be huge for Hamilton, and that's something I'm all for. It's history that needs to be told. Lin-Manuel Miranda himself has said in the past that he wants this to be seen by a large audience, and we're seeing that with the changes that are being made to snag that PG-13 rating. I think I heard today that there were 3 F-bombs dropped in the entire show. 2 of them have been removed because with PG-13 ratings, you're allowed to have 1 F-bomb. So we'll see where that pops up. But hey, that's not the focus of the show, right? If you haven't seen it, definitely check out the trailer. We need some escapism, and escapism with a message, especially in this time, is just so perfect to me. Can't wait to see this next week. But then in less than exciting news, and still on the musical track, we're getting a Mamma Mia 3 potentially. A 3rd Mamma Mia film for some god-awful reason. Why in the hell is this a thing? I honestly can't believe it. I love Mamma Mia, and I know that there's people in this chat right now that have argued with me about that. It was fun. The first one was great. The music was great. ABBA music's great. It just makes you feel good. But then we got Mamma Mia 2, which, sure, it's fun, and the music is once again great. ABBA does it again. But it breaks continuity with the first, and as someone that kind of catches little details in films and then for some reason can't get away from them, that really bothers me. In the first Mamma Mia, Meryl Streep's Donna says that her mother up above has it in for her. But then suddenly, she hasn't passed in the second one, and there's her mother, played by Cher, alive and well, jumping into the system. Are we supposed to just ignore this? Do filmmakers think that we'll just move on and we're playing us for dumb in that sense? She wasn't even in the movie that much, and Cher was really good at it. I really did enjoy Cher in the movie. And, of course, she has the singing chops. But what's next? Where are we going with this? It really bothers me that they break continuity with films like this. It should be something that you just take and have fun with, and maybe that's on me, just to kind of take it for what it is. But, my money's on Donna coming back next and being a zombie. The island in Greece being part of Lost or something. Enough is enough. We got to just let it be what it is and develop new properties. I'll go see it for sure, but we need to move on from that. So finally, Pete Davidson, hot on the heels of a great performance in The King of Staten Island, has lined up his next film. If you haven't seen The King of Staten Island, I highly recommend it. As somebody who was not a fan of Davidson for the longest time, this is somewhat based on his life and really kind of changed my tune on him. It's just a good movie. It's a bit long, but it's a good movie. Judd Apatow does a great job with the cast, with the story, and really delivers an enjoyable VOD film. He's set to co-star with Colin Jost, lead writer of SNL and co-host of Weekend Update, in a wedding comedy that follows a few weeks before their wedding, when shenanigans reign supreme with their family coming in and all of the different interactions that pop up. We've all been to weddings. We all know how interesting they can get when, Uncle Pete meets Aunt Diane from the other family and craziness goes. So this obviously automatically reminded me of Wedding Crashers for the buddy comedy aspects of it, but I'm excited to see these two together. Davidson's on the upswing, and I think that this is a perfect project for him. Definitely opposite Colin Jost. They have different temperaments. They have different humor. We'll see. We'll definitely see where it's going. That's still early in development, but we'll see what's going on there. So that's that. Those are the stories that stuck out to me in the past week or so. Make sure you check out guyatthemovies.com for the latest news. I do want to check the comments because I do see some people going off a little bit about my Mamma Mia comments, which is always really funny. But we'll start here with Movie Files. Movie Files says, can't wait to see the first episode of Guy at the Movies with special guest, the Rankings Guy, a.k.a. the guy who talks movies way too much, a.k.a. the great Sean Chandler. Sean Chandler will be here in just a minute. We'll chat with him about movie theaters and what's going on with the reopenings and kind of where he's at with heading back to the theaters anytime soon. But we have Luke in here who's blowing up the comments. Luke, here we go. Mamma Mia 3, let's go. We'll see where that goes. You know how I feel about it. But we're getting it, I expect. So I'm always for feel-good movies. They are feel-good movies regardless. We'll see how they go. Mamma Mia 2 over Mamma Mia 1. That is inaccurate in my mind, but I will let you have your opinions. That's what makes this community so great. But now that we are about ready to move on, Sean, I see you hanging out there. Are you ready to pop in? And if so, we'll grab him in. Awesome. Sean is actually already here, he comments. So let's switch gears and bring in one of my favorite YouTube personalities. That's Mr. Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Talks About. Sean, how's it going?
I'm good.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for
You're
having
very
me.
melancholy tonight, very quiet.
Yes. Well, I just was watching a very dramatic television program before coming up here about these teams working together, trying to overcome obstacles and reach an objective. And frequently on their journeys, one of the members would fall into lava that was the floor and never to be seen again. It's a new program called The Floor is Lava. And I'm quite emotional after so many emotions, the highs, the lows, the tragedy, the victories, all of it.
You know, it's great watching people set a goal and go for it. And, you know, I think the episode 1 is called The Basement or something. So I look forward to checking that out and seeing them rise from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
But how have you been? How have things been going?
They've been, well, same as it's been for 3 months over here. Just hanging out at home and cranking out videos, and the family gets a little bit crazier every single day as where you stuck around each other and can't let out any steam and go do normal stuff. But yeah, it's good overall, all things considered.
Yeah, understood. Family man over there. The kids are holding up all right with everything?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell there's a side to it where they're ready to go do something and not just be here stuck. And then all the problems that come with us not wanting them to just watch TV and play video games all the time. So it's like, no, you can't play this. But I want to. Okay, you can't play TV or play video games and watch TV all the time. So it's all that stuff that's just when you're stuck at home, you go a little bit crazy. And when you're younger and have less maturity, you go a little bit crazier.
This is very true. We've all been there. Some of us are still there. Some of us are trying to make it out of there. But it's a weird time for everyone. But one of the things that you and I talking about tonight was theaters reopening.
Yes.
And some of the stories, that's one of the biggest stories right now, right? This past week we had, at least on the US front, we heard from Regal, we heard from Cinemark, and then AMC popped in and, kind of caused some ruckus with their mask policy. And so now we're seeing some changes there. They've reversed course. They will now require masks. But we're about to see a phased reopening of a lot of the theaters, and we still have some big movies that are at least on the docket for July with Milan and Tenet. But we learned today, and I'm not sure if you saw this, it kind of was later on tonight, that New York is delaying the opening of movie theaters, and that being a big market, I wonder how that's going to really impact everything. But what do you think here? Are theaters reopening too quickly?
I tend to lean into the side that says there shouldn't be one size fits all solutions to problems. And so when you have we're kind of talking about the whole world, specifically talking about the US, but it's a very diverse country, even if you're just talking about the US. And if you're talking about New York City, I'm not surprised at all that they wouldn't want to reopen movie theaters like that. That's not surprising at all. But then you can think, I'm in Texas, and you have counties that never had a case of corona. Now, they probably don't have a movie theater either, but there's places that don't have corona. There's places that very little. And so if you do a one-size-fits-all solution, it's really extreme for certain places, and it's nothing. I mean, it's doing something irresponsible in other markets. And I think that's where social media, all the stuff that kind of way we have these conversations, it makes it feel like we're all sitting around the table talking about the same thing. And on the one hand, we are talking about the same thing, this scary virus thing, but in very different contexts. And so I think that we all need to do a better job of paying attention to that fact, especially, in being in the movie space, there's a high percentage of people that are in LA and in New York City. Two places hit real bad, especially New York City, of course, but LA, I mean, a lot of scary stuff happened there that if you're in LA, you feel that. You feel there's a lot more. For me, I don't know anybody that's had it. I don't know, like I'm in no way in denial of the numbers. I can see the numbers,
Sure.
but if it's not hitting here, if you don't feel it here, a one size fits all solution for what needs to be done in LA seems a little bit overkill for where I'm at. And so are they doing it too soon? I think it's really weird that it's being done as this kind of, let's open everywhere all at once. Like, why would you not pick places that weren't hit very hard and say these 15 states that seem to be doing okay?
Lost you for a second there, Sean, but I'm sure you'll pick back up in just a minute. Oh, there we go. Got you back.
Interesting. I never lost you, so you seem smooth as can be. Then you lost me.
Technology.
But, yeah, this stuff. But yeah, like, why wouldn't they pick, like, let's do this test run with Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Inception, all these movies in like 15 states that haven't been hit hard, and let's just see what happens. Let's look at the behavior of people, and then let's go to moderately hit, and then, like, that's what I would think would make a little bit more sense. But I guess it is easier if you're trying to do a national brand to communicate, but there's strange times. There's no good solutions, but I tend to think that you should let people make their own choices in so much as you're not in a place where you are in crisis mode.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the challenge right now is, just keeping an eye on some of the numbers and stuff. You see that all the theaters are entering a time where they want to start reopening, but it seems like as soon as they announced that, we started seeing spikes all over the place. And it's kind of scary. And it also makes me wonder with, movies like Tenet or like Milan that are still scheduled to come out. And I know there's some other smaller ones that are kind of peppered in there, whether that's really worth it for them.
Right. That's where, and especially with also there being like a 2-week little incubation period where you do the experiment and you find out the results 2 weeks later on the danger side. You get the financial side immediately, and then you have to wait on danger. Oh, did I cut out again?
That one was me, I think.
Okay. Yes, it wasn't me this time. All right. But yeah, so I think also looking at the strategic side to it, it's tough to know. Here's one of the thoughts that I've had throughout this, where people have been like, they can only do 25% capacity. If you put out Mulan right now, you can only sell 25% as many, or 25% of tickets. Tenet comes out. If it was going to be 100 million, that's only 25 million because they only do 25 capacity. But the huge thing that people leave out of that is there's no competition. You got Mulan, 2 weeks, Tenet. So that's all those screens. Like, if they are selling at 25% capacity for Mulan, then they go, all right, sorry, Jurassic Park, you're out. Sorry, Bloodshot, we're not going to show you anymore. And so then you imagine there's a theater that for 2 weeks, they could literally have 8 screens at 25 capacity playing Mulan. And so that's where I think there's a side to it where I go, the math gets a little bit more interesting. I put up a poll on my channel, on my community tab, asking like, hey, when theaters open, are you going to go back opening day? You're going to go back as soon as there's a movie you want to see. You're going to go back in a couple weeks, couple months, when there's a vaccine. 82% were in those first two categories. As soon as I can go, or as soon as there's a movie. Wow. And only 18% was everything else. Now, granted, I have a movie channel. It's got a very young audience. It's swayed. It's not the general public, so it's not. There are problems with it, but I mean, 20,000 people voted, and 82% of movie fans. And I'm big, broad, blockbuster stuff. That's my channel. 82% said as soon as there's something I want to go see, or the day they open, I'm going back to the movies. So I think there's a lot of what we've sense of where the general public is at comes from the loudest voices, and the loudest voices are the most popular voices, and the disproportionate percentage of popular voices are in New York City and LA. Those are the
True.
two cultural centers, and those are two places that I think have a different vibe from a lot of the rest of the country, what they feel. And I could be wrong about that. That could be a misread, but I think there's a lot of people that want to go out there and do something.
A lot of people are looking for an escape. They want to get out
Yeah.
of the house. They want to do something, and that's something that's simple and familiar. I struggle with Milan, especially because I don't know that Disney wants to be first out of the gate with, testing everything.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, it's a family film that, if people are comfortable with going out, they want to do something with their kids. They want to give them, an ulterior or an alternative to something like Trolls World Tour for the 75th time. Then it might be a good option. But the other piece of that is the Chinese market not doing so well right now, with China kind of going on lockdown and shutting down a lot of their theaters. I don't know that that's really the way they're going to go with Milan. That's the one that I really expect to move. Just because they went to such great lengths to make sure that, the film was culturally sound and it really is appealing to that market. So if you can't hit that market right now, I don't see it really being a wide release.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what makes all this so interesting, is that you're both having to think, okay, it'll make less money if we put it out right now. Some of these movies, Mulan with China shut down, you're cutting off $200 million. Like this isn't like, 10% drop. What does that mean? Like in the case of this one, the numbers are 100 million. And so that's one side to it of, if you put it out now, you don't make as much money. The other side to it of like, but we're also just sitting out revenue for 4 months already right now, that just huge chunks of their revenue streams put on hold entirely. And I not that Disney's like, we're best of friends with AMC and I don't want my buddy to hurt. But not that they're thinking like that, but there is a symbiotic nature there of, they've got to have a certain mind to it of like, if this goes on too long, some of these will go out of business.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The behavior of the public will change. Well, we don't want to lose this side of our business. So, and we don't want our these people that are kind of important to us to like, think AMC's in horrible shape. They were in horrible shape.
Terrible shape.
And so they're screwed by all of this. Yep. And you start even thinking, okay, the chances that they go under, not too bad. That's a bet maybe worth taking, that AMC is going to go under. It's more of like win, like let's bet win they die. And so you start going, does that mean that 20-30% of movie theaters just disappear? Does that mean Amazon buys them out? Does that mean some like bank conglomerate thing or whatever that would be called comes in and like joins it out of the blue? Suddenly there's this new movie theater chain. It's like there's so many interesting questions tied to all of this, where even when people are kind of like saying stuff like, theaters just want to reopen so soon just so that they can make some money. Yeah. That's a lot of people that are employed by movie theaters.
Right.
And that's like entry-level employees. That's adults that make a living as theater managers. That's marketing departments. That's a lot of people that, counting on that income and trickle down to the film industry. So, I think that I get frustrated whenever people want to like oversimplify it to like, they only care about money. They don't care about people's health at all. Like it's not quite that simple. Like there's a lot of really hard things that you need to you're weighing on all of this.
It's very true. I mean, that's spot on. And you think about all of the safety measures that are being put into place with social distancing, social distancing between seats, now requiring masks to be worn, limited kitchen functions, the UV sanitizing or whatever it is in the theaters that's going to be going on, all that fun stuff. And that kind of leads us to, I sent you an article, which I thought was kind of interesting and really takes this into a different perspective with psychology. And the crux of the article, as if you read it, was that there was theaters are now playing psychologists in a way where they are really working to establish safety standards that are going to give everyone the I don't want to say illusion, because it is hopefully going to be safe and stuff like that, but you're really trying to psychologically tell people this is a safe place to be. And that also can be a challenge. And I think that's kind of what you saw with the AMC decision this week, right? The feedback right away was, well, we're being told to wear masks everywhere. Why are you not going to require masks? Right. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right, we will.
Yeah, well, I think my favorite one about that is how, like, the CEO or whoever made the comment, like, we don't want to make this a political thing. If he hadn't said that sentence, if he hadn't said those words, it would have been a lot easier to backpedal. If he just left that out and said, like, yeah, we're going to let people make their own choices, and just leaves it at that, like, put it in other people's hands. They hear feedback and they say, oh, we heard you. And the overwhelming majority say that you want masks. Therefore, we hear you. We're like, this is all new to us. But as soon as you say, I don't want to make this a political thing, so we're not going to make people wear masks. Like, what? Right.
So less is more in that situation. Let's not talk about that stuff. Yeah, it's fascinating to me, right? Because I originally was of the mind where I was thinking when theaters reopen, kind of like you were talking about most of your followers, when theaters reopen, I'm going to be there. I'm pumped. I'm ready for that outlet, whether it's Bloodshot, maybe not Bloodshot, if it's Jurassic Park or, Empire Strikes Back or whatever they're putting back in the theaters.
Yeah, that Regal list of movies, I always saw that and I was like, man, I want to see a bunch of those on the big screen.
Right. I think that would be fun. Jurassic Park is one I would love to see on the big screen. But, at the same time, being someone that's working with some of this stuff day in and day out in my my real life, my real job. One of the things that keeps coming back up is that it's kind of we're all in this together, the whole High School Musical approach. We're all in this together, and you're only as safe as the next person next to you and the precautions that they're taking. So I think about sometimes when I'm at the theaters and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to be kind of in a group of people that maybe aren't taking this as seriously or whatever it may be. So I'm really kind of torn. I used to be gung-ho about going back, but on the psychological front, I think that I'm seeing the news of the numbers going up and wondering if that's really where I want to be going.
Right. Yeah. I think I've even been playing this one out in my mind of like, I've always kind of had this, I think I'm going to feel comfortable going back, but the image in my mind is always of an empty theater.
Yeah.
So even the reason, like in my mind, I'm thinking the theater's not going to be very full. So I'm comfortable going back because it's, if there's, not a ton of people in there, that I'm not really all that afraid of it. And I think some of that is the theater that's closest to my house it's not almost never gets packed. Even opening nights, like I would go see movies and I'm like, oh, this is going to be the big movie this weekend. Oh, there's not nearly as many people in here as I was expecting. And that's been consistently the pattern besides January awful horror films. Those are like packed for whatever reason. Like that's
where in Texas are you living?
This is a theater in Pflugerville, Texas. Pflugerville spelled with a PF, if you're wondering. So yeah, apparently they love terrible horror movies. But I'm starting to think, like, if I was somewhere where I thought if I showed up, it's going to be a pretty full, like I would interpret that very differently.
Yeah.
And I'm even thinking, like, if I go, all right, I can go whenever I want. I can pick whatever time of day. So I just pick whatever I think is going to be the slowest time period, and we're good to go. And I'm going to a non-busy theater at a not busy time of day. Hey, I'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, just kind of going out about a little bit, and you still see the people that are all in and doing crazy stuff. Then you have the people that are doing the nose deal. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, you're supposed to cover your nose because that the air and the germs come out of that thing too, and they bring them in. See some people hanging it just over the ear. That definitely doesn't help.
My favorite was a picture from Las Vegas. It was this older man sitting at a slot machine, smoking a cigarette through the side of his mask, and then pulling down the top so he could drink his like vodka or whatever it was. I'm like, oh man. And anything to get back to normal, right?
Right. Yeah, and so I don't know. It's just it's tough to know. I'm trying to pay pretty close attention to what's going on here. What's the What feels like the pattern here in the numbers where they at? Are people being dumb? Even like with press screenings, it goes into more Austin and more urban, more packed theaters. I go, we'll see.
Right.
I know some of the other critics in town have said they're not going until there's a vaccine. So trying to pay attention to how many of them have said that to determine what I can do. Because if enough of them aren't going to show up to the press screening,
don't take that as a business opportunity, as some leverage on them.
But I'm even wondering about that. Like, are they going to start doing press screenings? And if they start doing press screenings, are they going to do it on like 2 screens or something? Like no general public, and put it on 2 screens instead of just the one. There's so many interesting things about all of this that
it's absolutely forcing everything to every business, every company, every aspect of life is rethinking how to move forward, which is pretty fascinating. But back to the movie front with Mulan. Yes. Mulan we talked a little bit about, but Tenet has been the one that's been really interesting to keep an eye on. Christopher Nolan reportedly wants to be, the savior of the movies, and Warner Brothers did delay it, but only 2 weeks. There's been that ongoing reporting that Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan have been there's a little back and forth where Warner Brothers would like to delay it further. That's a big movie. Nolan movies are always big releases. It's something that people have been looking forward to for a while. Do you foresee that moving? I mean, what do you think is going on with Tenet there? And I guess said a different way, Sean, not to cut you off, but a different way as well. If you were making that decision, what would you do?
I mean, at some point in time, you just have to test it. We have to go back, and the longer you go without doing something, the more awkward it is for everyone, the more difficult it is for everyone. And I think that's kind of what you start thinking through. Like if you went a full 6 months where you can't go to the movies, and the psychology is if you go to the movies, you're going to get sick and die and contaminate your grandma, and she'll die for 6 months, a year. That changes your thought process. And I mean, like AMC, I just can't make it 6 months. And so then you just at some point in time have to just test it and see what happens. Will people go back? I mean, I don't know if you want to, if this is the way to phrase it, but like you even have to test, like, is this the thing that will cause the next spike? I have a hard time thinking that would be the case. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's the general behavior. Like I saw a tweet where someone they said, Nolan's legacy is on the line with this one. He's the one that really wants to release it now, and now his legacy might be he puts out a movie. It did okay opening weekend, and he infected millions of people with the disease. Yeah. And you go, Christopher Nolan did not infect millions of people with the disease. It's really easy for you behind your phone on Twitter to make a decision as to what to do with his movie that is done. But there's a lot of things that kind of go into that, and a lot of hard decisions, and a lot of people that have to okay his decision, his preference. Like he does not actually have sway over Warner Brothers. They have to be thinking, all right, should we do August or should we do July? Like they're weighing. And
we got a little bit of a freeze there, but
like Nolan doesn't have total sway. So if they're going to put a movie out July 31st, 30th or whatever, they were already thinking, all right, are we doing it August 15th or are we doing it July 24th? Like they're thinking in that window.
But do you test it with a blockbuster or do you test it with like The Secret Garden? Like, that's where I get a little, and back to the comment I made earlier about Disney probably not being the first ones to, if it does get to the point where we see spikes in places where theaters reopened or something, and they reopened with a PG-13 Disney movie, like you really don't want to have that be the big headline.
So, I mean, I guess I don't know that this is a full counter to that, but they are opening like July 1st. They are putting out Unforgiven, Jurassic Park, Dark Knight Trilogy, Inception. They are doing that. We are getting Unhinged, what is that? Russell Crowe driving a car. So there is a little bit of that. I think I would agree with you that I wish that they would have picked like a mid-budget let's trying to think through what one of these things that kind of got delayed that didn't need to be as big. Even so, My Spy is coming out this
I was
week.
just gonna say that.
You're like, what if they used that one for like July 1st and say, hey, My Spy, we've got a star. This movie doesn't need to make $1 bazillion. It cost $18 million. Mm-hmm. So let's try this one out week 1, and then we'll do Unhinged the next week. And then something else like that the third week. And that gives you kind of that 2-week window. Like, okay, was there a big spike when we did this? Was there not? Are people following the rules? Okay, yeah. We have an expectation of their behavior. Now let's put Tenet out. But, I could see some wisdom in that. I think they're also going, okay, what's all the stuff we can dump on streaming to have some income somewhere? What can we do over here? Okay, we'll just throw the King of Staten Island on streaming. We'll just $20 over here. And the Tenet will save us. I think there's like weird desperation in a lot of what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of trial and error too, right? A lot of companies don't really know what's going on 2 months down the road, as none of us do. Nobody knows what the next week is going to bring, let alone what organizations or big cinemas are going to look like. Should AMC survive this summer? Mm-hmm. You can see Amazon swooping in and like combining Whole Foods with AMC theaters or something. That would be a really interesting marketing ploy for them. But so just thinking about, this, you mentioned the King of Staten Island. When are you going to continue to kind of watch movies at home? I think I saw that you were watching My Spy last night or the night before.
I did get to see My Spy last night. There was a hard embargo, though. So if you were wanting me to give you the
no, that's quite all right.
On My Spy, since it seemed like
save the excitement, Sean.
Pumped about, I got to hold off on telling you about that one. Yeah, so I've been, I've had attention to talk about myself for a little bit. Had a little bit of attention over the last year and a half between being movie critic guy and being YouTuber. They're the same and they're different at the same time. Being movie critic guy isn't how I've grown my channel. It's being list guy. And so then leaning into comic book nerd culture type stuff is much more successful than like, I'm going to review every movie that comes out. My audience doesn't care about a lot of this stuff. So kind of this has helped me to clarify that a little bit of, all right, do I want to pay $20 to review Trolls 2? I do not want to pay $20 to review Trolls 2. So I did not pay $20 to review Trolls 2. But at the same time, I've still tried to keep up with as many things as I can. And so like I haven't gone for King of Staten Island yet. I'm not a big Pete Davidson or Judd Apatow person. And so I've been like, it wasn't one I was like rushing out, like $20. I think I will before the end of the month. I do these end of the month rankings. So I think I will check it out in the next week to put it in that video. But it's just rough when it's pay $20 to watch it at home.
It is.
Their price point is based off of, they think that people are going to invite all their friends over. And so they're trying to save against parties of 5. And it turns into, who are the people that are doing this? It's people sitting by themselves. So I'm paying twice as much as I would have paid to see it at a theater. So cool. Now I'm in my living room, like on my couch late at night, because my wife doesn't want to watch it. So lying on my couch, I'll probably fall asleep a couple times and pick it up the next day. $20 to watch it like this. Cool. But yes, I'm. And there's slowly, it seems like there's a little bit more stuff coming out now that we've gotten a little bit past that initial window where they're like, we don't know what to do. We got to cut deals with streaming services. Now we're getting the big hits like My Spy and stuff like that finally dropping on streaming and everything. So Artemis Fowl a week or two back, great cinema.
We certainly got Artemis Fowl. That is something that happened. So Sean, what, outside of keeping your YouTube channel going and being the list man and all of that, you mentioned kind of just keeping going. I saw you're also getting swole over there too, huh?
Oh yeah. So I've been I never liked I was super skinny growing up. I was when I got engaged, I was 6'1" and 137 pounds.
Oh my God.
And like, like I was muscular skinny, but that's not a lot of muscle. 37 pounds that height. And I hated it. I hated being that skinny. Loving action movies and tough guys. Actually during orientation during college, we did just one of those pyramid deals where people stack people on top of each other. And I was like, I could be on the base. I don't mind, the pain of holding people up. And, this 90-pound girl goes, dude, you look really breakable. I don't think that's a good idea. This was 15 years ago and stuck with me this whole time of like, breakable. I'm not breakable. So whenever I got engaged, and this is now 14 years ago, I was like, I'm going to hit the gym hard. And it got up to like 185 by the time my wedding. Like it was a dirty bulk, but I did it. And that's around the 70s and 80s. That's where I stuck around for a while. And then whenever about 4 years ago, I got a job delivering paint. And so I was just literally picking up these paint buckets all the time. and it was outside in the hot Texas sun. So it was all shoulder work, deadlifts. And so I eventually at one point in time, are you there? You there?
I'm here.
All right. I thought I might have lost you for a little. So, and it was like, all right, as long as I'm just doing like power lifts all day long, I'm just going to see how far I can take this. So for a little while, I got up to 225. Now, once again, this is not a clean 225. This was like, I'm eating all day long, whatever I want, but it's also like, just look like a bear, rip your arms off. And I'm thinking to myself, like, should I just try and get up to 237 just for the say like I've gained 100 pounds? And people don't look at me like, dude, you let yourself go. They're like, dude, you look like a bear. Like you just look like a beast mode right now. And like I said, like it was like, looked like a little bit squishier when I took my shirt off, but with the shirt on, just looked out of nowhere. Like, when did I become like this just bulking guy?
Muscle beast.
And so then whenever I went full time on YouTube and wasn't picking up buckets of paint, I was like, okay, I enjoy this phase of life where I'm a bigger guy. And so then have stuck with sticking at the gym, but I haven't had any goals for a while. So this is all the preface to your question. This is preface. So starting May 1st, my wife and I decided to like lock in and do like a cardio program. Cause I know my cardio is not good and I wish I was better at all of that. And It's like, okay, I've been having fun chowing down on ice cream to keep my weight up. And I've been stuck around like 210, 215, for the last, since I went full time. So I didn't keep up at that 225 bear size, but still like for me, literally 80 pounds more than I was when I got engaged. And so then since May 1st, we've been doing this daily cardio and doing all this, like there's a day of yoga in there everywhere. I've never done yoga before. Pilates is another day. I've never done Pilates before. So all this stuff I've never done before, but like full body and feeling all the stuff in different places. So I've dropped like 4 or 5% body fat down pounds. So I'm at 205 right now. So it's a lot of, it's fun. I like having a goal again. And so as soon as I have a goal in mind, then I like lock in. It's like, all right, I can cut even more of the sugar out of my diet, do more protein shakes, and I take it more seriously. And at some point in time, I'll hit like some number in my brain that'll be like, okay, this isn't worth it anymore. You did it. You proved it to yourself that you can do it. And I can find the one on this rant about myself. I'm getting close to 40. So I'm a year and a half out from 40. And so I'm looking at my life thinking, okay, I've been lucky with the aging thus far, but I'm going to hit a point in time where the body's just going to say, all right, bye-bye hair. All right, wrinkles, here we come. And
everything hits.
So it's going to happen, and it's not too far away. And, when I was doing the crazy man beard and just you could see all the gray on the sides and in the beard. So as soon as I shaved, the shaving the beard cut off 10 years, and then getting the haircut, cutting off the sides, cut off like 5 more years. So I'm thinking, if this is my last chance to have a peak, I'm going to peak right now. I'm going to like have my like 39, like that's going to be, and also in theory, my 20-year high school reunion will be this fall. It's supposed to be the summer, but 2020. So also got to show up to your 20-year high school reunion looking your best. So there's a bunch of things driving this question that you kind of threw out there real quick that I decided to go off on for a while.
No, that's great. That's great. Hey, more power to you. When this all started, I thought I'm going to use this time, working from home and having a different schedule. I'm going to really focus on fitness, and we're going to we're gonna really get into it. And now, like, over 100 days later, I'm sitting here like, well, all right. I bought the bands. I didn't do much with them, but we'll see.
That's kind of for me. I think I was so undisciplined for the first 35 years of life and just kind of happy-go-lucky. And as this YouTube thing got success, I was like, all right, I bet I need to have some systems to be disciplined to like keep myself in check and in line. And so because I had the momentum of this, what if this thing worked? What if I was able to go full time with this? What if that happened? I was able to build those systems just driven by that motivation. And so now, even though I'm not an organized person by nature, and particularly like I've actually built that skill up, and it's like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to lose this, because I still remember being 34, 33, 32, 31. So I know at some point in time I'm going to stop being disciplined. But before that happens, let's ride this wave as long as we can.
Right, we're going to make a push right now.
Let's see if I can finally get that action hero body I've always wanted. That's not just the bear, but also it has these shredded abs for just that one point in time. I don't need to hold on to it. I'm not Stallone. I'm not going to stay there until my 70s. I don't have access to the HGH and the horse steroids. But if I can get that one picture that one day where I look amazing and take advantage of this whole corona, that's my thought.
Yeah, just to say you saw the abs, they were there. Here's the picture proof. So, Sean, I really appreciate you popping on tonight. But before you go, what's coming up for your channel? You mentioned some of the lists you have coming up, and then also where can people find you?
Yeah, so on my main channel, the big thing I'm doing is been going kind of reviewing the Christopher Nolan movies leading up to Tenet. So whenever they delayed it, I was like, this is the best news ever, because I started the series a little bit late and I needed a couple extra weeks to get this deal done. So that kind of helped me out. And so then also tied to that, I'm going to do a bunch of Batman stuff. I'm watching through the DC animated movies. There's a continuity that they ran from Flashpoint Paradox 7 years ago that just ended a month ago with this Justice League movie. So I'm watching through all of those. There's a bunch of stuff like that with DC stuff. One thing that I'm working on behind the scenes that hopefully maybe around August 1st will actually be released, but I'm working actually on a course on YouTube growth. I was an education major in college. I have a background in teaching, and I just like to help people. And so I've always been interested in making a course, even before I ever had a YouTube channel or anything to help people do anything. I've always just had that mindset, like, oh, I'd love to make a course. So I'm working on like a full one of the extensive holistic system programs on how to grow on YouTube. And it's even earlier today. That's what I was doing all day long, was like working on the framework for it, brainstorming every idea that
That's
I could
awesome.
3-4 hours straight. And I've been putting out some feeler type free resources and stuff like that over the last few months, and kind of even putting out some of these videos to like just build that muscle of how to teach that material and how to get used to talking about it before I create a course that I'm hoping to be. That's actually one of my coronavirus projects. I've been thinking about doing it forever. And I've been like, oh, that's always been an excuse not to do it. And now it's like everyone's stuck at home wanting to start YouTube channels and stuff like that. And every day people are asking me about it. And it's like, well, this is the opportunity. Like, this is that next thing that I should have done a year ago.
Sean, I love it. I love your focus. It's like pumping out the videos, getting healthy, getting fit, and a YouTube creators course.
Well, I can't go anywhere, so it's a way to be like, all right, wife, I've got to go right. Keep the kids downstairs. it's my way of escaping. But yeah, people ask me like, you should do more video game stuff. And like, by my nature, I love it. At the end of the day, something new exists because of today's work. This exists. Yeah. And literally like in the window of time, like going on rabbit trails. So it's supposed to be like my little send off, 30 seconds, and turned it into my next
thing. You're totally fine.
But when I was started my YouTube channel and I got the job delivering pain, it was a really tough time. I was literally in rehab for addiction stuff. It was a really tough time for me. And I went from having like kind of a real high profile, solid reputation type job, using my brain, communicating, speaking, to the only job I could get was picking up buckets. And I'm getting it because you passed a drug test and you haven't gotten in a car accident in 6 months. We're going to hire you to drive around and pick up buckets of paint.
Wow.
And like, that's a humbling experience. And so I in that literally said to my wife, like if this window of time where I'm doing something where I'm not using my brain, if I can't use this window to launch something, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know if I'll make it. Like, this has to turn into something. I said that. I verbalized that. It sounds like a line from a movie or book or something, but I literally said it and was thinking that. And one of those things was always in my mind was something like starting a course. And of course, the dream of YouTube. And because this was like my channel was literally 2 months old when I said that. And now, like, I'm obviously the YouTube thing worked, and now this course thing that I've always been excited about, because of the YouTube thing, I have the story, the credibility to do the course. And so that's a lot of what drives me on this stuff of like I've wanted to do this. I've been thinking about this for years before I knew what I went in to make it for. And even if it sucks, even if no one is interested, no one buys the course or whatever, even if it goes nowhere, I did it though. Yeah. And even if I make it and I hated making it, now I know that I didn't want to do that. Don't want to do that anymore. So that's a lot of what kind of drives me, and that challenge. Can I do it? Because I know at the end of the day that I can look back. Every one of these things that they scare me about doing them, that could embarrass me if I do it. I'm a shy person, so a lot of the stuff that I do with the press stuff and going to press screenings and even red carpets and like interviewing celebrities terrifies me. I am not like, there's nothing about that I actually want to do. Every time I've done it, I've been like, I'm so glad I did that. I don't know if I want to do it again.
That's awesome,
because it made me feel so nauseous the whole time.
Well, but, it's, it's funny there. I'm the same way. I feel I was on a call earlier and about some projects coming up, and someone said like, you're good with speaking to people kind of off the cuff and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I said, thank you, but you didn't see like the 20 minutes before what it was doing to me. And
mm-hmm.
the nauseousness that I was dealing with for a while before that in anticipation. But I definitely appreciate you sharing that. I mean, it's great to see that you're able to continue to focus on the goals that you had back then. And, hopefully you're enjoying putting together the course.
Thus far, we'll find out. I'm a people pleaser, and so all of this stuff because it's a product that I want to sell, and like I want it to be the real deal, and I want this for people that are serious about this, not just like, hey, I'm starting a channel, and I mean I want it for people that like really like take it seriously. As serious as I took my channel, that's who this is for, and I want to give those people the information to be able to have the success that I had. And that's what even doing that, like, ask some people, try to like feel out what people was interested in. They're like, it should be for everybody. Like, but it's not for everybody. That's not everybody wants to put in the work for something like this. Yeah. It just makes me nervous on all of it, just because I want everybody to be happy and I want everybody to be successful and all that fun stuff. But the world, that's simple. But
2020 said, not this year, Sean.
Actually, the other side to it, as long as I'm just going on all these rabbit trails.
Hey, my floor's yours.
My real plan for this year is I wanted to do a lot more speaking. I spoke at a Comic-Con last year. I just kind of applied and they let me do, and the talk was basically the earliest prototype of this course is what it was, because the talk was how to make a nerdy living on YouTube. That's what the course will be. And literally, that's one of the things I'm looking at to build the outline for the course. But I applied and sent out stuff to, I think, 15 or 20 Comic-Cons in late February, early March. Those didn't happen. That didn't happen. It was all the same goal. The same goal was like, I get excited about teaching people to be successful in the space. And okay, I can't go to a Comic-Con and shake your hand, give you a hug, and tell you all about how YouTube is awesome. So how can I do that? That course idea. And so it was just kind of that, let's take that energy, that time I was then going to dedicate to that, and all that time I was going to spend going to movies at the theaters. Now it's over here doing this other thing. And so yeah, it's pretty exciting, especially as something that I've been thinking about for years.
Yeah.
And it looks real close to actually happening.
Well, look, it's all great stuff. I mean, you definitely hit the nail on the head earlier. You have the credibility because you put out great content. The one of the reasons I have you on all the time, or I've asked you to pop on all the time, is that I just enjoy talking to you because you definitely have that, that we're kind of all doing the same thing. You want to help, you want to talk through kind of what's going on in the industry, and it's a great thing. And I think that not, I don't mean this in a negative way, but some of the things you just said to me, I know that you have said to me before, and it's great hearing that because that's the stuff that has inspired me in the past. And if that's what you're putting into this program, it's definitely going to be beneficial for everyone across the board. So I really look forward to that rolling out.
Yeah, so as writing my notes, I was like, well, I have enough stuff to like make this worthwhile, and it like mapped things out. And I was like, oh man, this is a lot of stuff. There's so many different things I can talk about. It gets kind of fun as soon as like, okay, think that all the people I've said things to that I went, that was actually pretty smart. What, I was trying to remember what was that one, and all those little nuggets, and you just think through. If you just have like 30 different, I think it'll be like 30 lessons, and like having like a really good, powerful nugget inside of each one of those. Like the idea of trying to make sure I have that, like I get excited just thinking about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool, and I like that kind of way to think about it because it ultimately turns out to be like, your 30 steps to success or whatever. Right. But it's.
You there? Hello?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know if you dropped something or slapped something, but it's like I heard a snap in my ears right as it happened too. So I was like,
oh, wow.
That was weird.
I got to tell you, ever since this whole thing started, trying to get the internet to cooperate has been special.
Yep.
I'm working off a new, like I just connected an Ethernet today and got that going. I'm like, we'll do landline now. And you see how that's working.
Sean, more live streams. Everybody's trying to do it, and everyone's internet sucks.
Yeah, and StreamYard's like, we weren't made for this.
Right.
Yeah, we love you all jumping on, but this wasn't part of our plan right now. But hey, I definitely enjoy you taking the time, or appreciate you taking the time popping on because I always enjoy chatting with you. Hopefully, we'll chat again in the future. But until then, be safe and enjoy the time home with the kids.
Thank you much.
See you, Sean. All right, guys, always great to have Sean on here. I said it before to him, but I'll say it again. Just an all-around great guy, very enjoyable to chat with, and you learn a lot from him, and he's definitely someone that's very willing to help. So listen, each week I'm going to wrap up with the upcoming new releases, and on Friday we have a couple coming out. We have Eurovision Song Contest, the story of the Fire Saga, which will be on Netflix, starring Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. We have Irresistible on video on demand from Jon Stewart, starring Steve Carell and Rose Byrne. And we have Dave Bautista's long-delayed My Spy battling over on Amazon Prime. So you can look out for those reviews early next week. Wednesday night at 7:30 on YouTube, and every other Wednesday from here on out, we'll be having Guys Movie Quizzo, 4 rounds of movie trivia that has just been an absolute blast. You can meet some cool people, win some cool prizes, learn some things. It's been a lot of fun. Please join if you are interested. And before we go, I do want to acknowledge the unrest in the world right now. We're privileged to be able to sit here and talk about movies and the entertainment industry and the stuff that we enjoy. But the world is going through a lot, and we continue to battle in the ongoing pandemic. All the while, unarmed black men are continuing to be killed. I'm very hopeful that this is finally the time that some much needed change is going to occur, or at least begin to occur. And we delayed there, but change starts with me, change starts with you, change starts with all of us, and it's long overdue. So please be open to listening to that. I'll be talking about it a little bit more in the future. But until then, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Sean, and be safe, be healthy.